It's got the speaker for it too, huh? That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I don't need it, but I'm using it. It's just easier. Keeps everything connected, because they use it, like the village board uses it, and so just keep it all connected.
Have you tried the app?
I did try, and I don't know if it's because I was having an issue with my phone, it just was not working, so I had to just, I shut off my Bluetooth and was like, okay, I can't. Hi, Shelley. Hi. Hi, Neil. How's everybody?
Oh, all right.
Mark said he's planning on being here, so. Yeah, it's got a couple of minutes.
Is this the agenda or?
Yeah, the agenda, yeah, copies of the agenda are in there, and then also the application. And then. I know there's going to be another application in the next like couple of weeks for Mill Rock, but does Mill Rock run through the village and town? Mill Rock?
Are you sure?
Hey, Dwight,
Go ahead.
how are you? You can sit anywhere. This is how they have it set up. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Is there 3 different things here?
So. Oh, here. Those are just reminders for me. But, you know,
Okay.
they have to be.
Okay.
Do you need a copy of the agenda or anything? I mean, not that's.
Have it right here. I'm prepared. Yeah. Good, good, Shelley.
Well, I got stung by a bee yesterday looking at the site of the Center Street. And I'm allergic to bees.
Matt, do you need the agenda?
Yeah, sure. You got one.
So that wasn't a fun thing. I mean, my arm is swollen. Yeah, but it's fine now.
24-hour reaction, yeah.
I took Benadryl and all this stuff. I just.
And that made it help.
It's a little unexpected. See if those pictures came out because I flung my phone up in the air.
So on the other, I don't think it does. I think it's just in the village. It runs across Henry W., but there's no road on the other side.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, it's-
Somebody asked me and I was like, wait, I mean, they haven't submitted it yet.
yeah, have you ever looked at Parcel Viewer?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, so it's,
yeah.
we use it a lot, so like at 6 o'clock. Make a motion to open the September 11th, 2024 meeting.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye. And we have one application, this month, this 16 Prospect Street.
Mhm.
Everyone had a chance to go look at it. They want to take down the, was it the Black Walnut?
Yeah, I have it right here. If anybody wants to look.
Yeah, just for full disclosure, with my friends and neighbors,
Okay,
I'm gonna be a little neutral.
Hmm.
But I'll still vote, cause I need to, I don't have
Do
any
you want,
choice.
do you want to see this?
No, actually.
Oh, yes, they know you.
I mean,
They have
I
a
just,
big magnolia tree.
as long as I know it's on their property, because it's like right on the property line,
That looked, see, I looked at the same thing you did, and it looked to me like it was on Leonard,
same, that's what I thought too.
yeah, so that piece they probably need to. I guess, or we need to determine, I don't know who decides that.
They certainly claim it's theirs, or it's on the line and theirs.
So I looked at that line, and that actually looks, that line really puts it, well, like if you look at the canopy of the tree, 3/4 of it is on the other property.
Doesn't matter
And
what
the
the
stem,
canopy is.
and the stem is to the left of the property line. According, just looking at the property line, like Neil and I looked at the same thing, I think,
And what are you taking as the property line?
what's shown on the parcel viewer.
Which is, it's always a little off, which is why, like, it's not exact, but
Yeah.
I'm just like, you know, I don't want them to cut it down and then they can get in trouble. Like, if you cut down your neighbor's tree, right, you can
Get
get,
stumpage value,
yeah.
and Leonard will definitely
So that, my, you know,
cut trees anytime he wants, but
yes, he likes cutting down trees.
I'm very happy that we cut down his tree.
That, my only concern was, you know, is it, do they know it's on their property if they have a map or anything like that, or if they talk to Leonard or something?
I think she said she was gonna talk to Len,
Okay,
but I think we probably should make sure, make sure.
I mean, we could, I guess, we could.
Can't really rule on it then. I
Well,
would
we could
think
give
if-
them, we could either, if we're, my thought is. First, we decide what we're gonna do, you know, but then we could say we give them permission if it's on their property.
I was in favor of, I spoke to the woman for quite a while and it's a bit, big gnarly messed up black walnut tree, as everybody saw, and it's been cut by the probably electric people. And there's a nice maple right there next to it that it really is, it's encroaching on that maple very much.
How so?
Well, it's just the maple's kind of growing this way because the nut tree is, taller. And I talked to her for a while and I explained to her why we're in existence, and she was very cooperative. And, I said, well, a lot of times, if you would be willing to plant another tree in its place.
That's the piece that I was gonna get to, is that, yeah, I think they're very much, they've actually been planting a bunch of native things, like other plantings, and doing some small native understory trees. So I think that the move would be to say, definitely needs a good native replacement tree. They have a beautiful oak towards the back of the property that we were looking at, really nice oak. And maybe they'd be willing to put another one in somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, she said that they were willing, and they have this gorgeous magnolia tree. When I first drove up there, I'm like, I hope this isn't the tree they want to cut down. It's beautiful. And then they mentioned your name, that you've taken care of that tree for quite a while. And it's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
well, it's so close to the front porch, it's really inappropriately planted, but we may, people make the best of it, the situation over the years. And it is healthy and it flowers but it is over large and talking about encroaching, it's,
Yeah,
right up the front of the house and close to the roof. Yes, it's been pruned in a manner that they can coexist, but needs to be repruned every few years.
Well, they seem to be willing to do whatever, and they really love the tree. And
Well, don't be surprised if it disappears, because they also one time spoke to me about they want to renew their porch or rebuild their front porch.
yeah, projects, I think that tree is not. I think that tree
That's
is got
not in our
basic
jurisdiction or
lighting,
anything
yeah.
yet. It really has nothing to do with the,
But I did notice that there's 10 or 12 feet in between the walnut and the maple, they can coexist.
Well, it looked to me like the walnut was definitely encroaching on the maple. And it, you know, certainly wasn't gonna grow out to be a good looking tree that's,
Well, I think it's a good looking tree right now, and I think, you know, they take different forms when they compete. Whether it's a little taller and the profile is more narrow, or whether it's full, they're both virtuous.
Yeah, I was surprised because the trees that, our black walnuts, they basically kill all the nearby trees because of the toxins they.
There are toxins in the root, the roots exude these toxins, but it's mostly affecting annuals and smaller plants.
Okay, that's
You
what.
know, you wouldn't want
plant
a
small
garden
trees.
nearby.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what happens.
that's what
to
makes
me.
it dope. Other natives, trees don't seem to.
Okay, yeah, because I keep trying to plant small things and they all die.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get, there's some stuff that's pretty, seems to really completely ignore it. But I think a lot of times people conflate root competition of large shade trees, which is very intense under any large shade tree. They conflate that with, you know, allopathic inhibition, which is what, you know, we're talking about with the black walnuts, because a lot of other trees, Norway maples too, also do that same, you know, chemical inhibition of understory plantings.
Well, they're also very dense shade.
Yeah, those are, and they suck water out of the, like, they will exist, I mean, if you try to dig around a Norway maple's roots, it's usually hard pan, just absolute like rock. Yeah, they're not great trees for that, for many reasons. Anyway, yes, I mean, I'm friends with them, so I kind of have to, I think I'll just go along with whatever you all decide.
well, I'll give my opinion that I felt as though the tree is not a great asset to that area, and those black walnuts are all over. And her son's kid lives across the street and plays, likes to play with them. You probably saw a basketball thing set up there in the driveway. And it's worrisome because that's a big nut thing. Like if he touched it, it could be a problem. I mean, that wasn't what swayed me. I looked at it and I said, here's this maple tree that could be stunning. And in a couple of years, it's gonna fill out and be beautiful. And here is this mutilated nut tree
Oh,
that.
come on. That's
It
not-
was, it's got all these things
I'm
from the.
aware, I'm aware.
Okay.
But mutilated, yes, it's cut back from the wires. They're very heavy. They have to be. They have to be.
Yeah,
It's doing the best it can
yes,
under those
it's
circumstances.
trying its best, for sure.
The upside is the maple is probably outside of where Central Hudson is allowed to cut. Because I think they have like 10 feet from the wires, so, you know, the upside would be that, like, if the maple does grow bigger, it won't be impacted by the electric company. That's my.
And you know, we're going around and I'll just give my opinion. I would say they can cut it down and she's very willing to talk to us and replant something that's, you know, there's a corner there that's empty right now. It wouldn't really inhibit the growth of the maple at all, and it could
Mhm.
also be a very nice shade tree, right? Giving shade to the sidewalk, and if I had my say, I would say they can cut it and plant another tree in its place.
They can or they must.
Oh, I wouldn't say, we can say must.
Yes, we say it's.
Should, oh.
It's contingent upon.
Yeah,
This permit is granted contingent upon replacement tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what that means.
Oh.
Must.
yes, all right.
I'll go over and yell at them if they don't.
No, but I think that would be, you know, that'll take care of it. And
Okay, Neil, do you have an opinion on it?
So, you know, I'm just looking at the street view. I mean, maybe they don't want to, but where would we ask them to plant the other tree? Like,
let me see if I've got.
Well, they could do it, it looks like there's, yeah, from above, there, I guess that could be their discretion, but we would ask for a shade tree and preferably I mean, it could be in the. Yeah, it could be like behind that maple, there's a nice big spot, that's not
Don't
much,
you think it ought to be within 15 feet of the road or curb?
it's already a pretty, unless they did it.
I'm just like wondering, like, what about I know it's under it's not a shade tree, but like, between the sidewalk and the curb,
Mhm.
it'd be under the wires, they planted us.
They have, there's a tree there already, there's a dogwood, I think,
And I mean, there's one in front of the house, but then,
oh, but not in the others.
yeah, so like where
Oh, I see.
on the other, and you know, they cut down the walnut and then plant one
Yeah, like
closer
in
to
the
the
L
street.
strip, you mean,
Yes,
that's the technical term.
yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that's just one idea, but, you know, I'm
Something small, ornamental kind of, but look at that space.
probably not the best spot there
Look
either.
to the right of both of those trees, yeah, and you just go back 20 or
Like
30
over
feet.
here.
Yeah, right in there, that's a nice big space, that's
Yeah.
not, there's no shade tree there. And it is a little further in, but it just makes more sense because it's clear with the wires.
That's what I thought too.
I mean,
And you're not, and you're, you know, if you're removing the walnut to help the maple grow, and then you plant something right next to the maple again.
Well, the maple then would have an advantage, because it's what, 15, 18, 20 feet tall, and then the youngin would be 6, 7, 8.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you're kicking it down the road a little bit too,
Yeah.
because that'll be not our problem.
I mean, I'm okay, I mean, I'm okay with that.
all right, well, let me be clear about my advice on this. I don't care whether it goes or not. Walnut has issues with the big nuts, and nobody wants it over their deck or their front, walk or sidewalk. They fall, they put dents in your car. So, I mean, if the nut is inside a big fruit
Yeah,
casement, it's pretty substantial. And, it annoys people. It's there on the sidewalk. It might be some reason. The tree is healthy. It's weathered the cutting back very well. It's got clearance from the maple. Yes, it will change the ultimate shape of the maple, but the maple can coexist there. However, there's a case, to keep it, there's a case to eliminate it. If you want to eliminate it, I just think there has to be a cost, and there has to be a replacement.
I was gonna say, if you think that Magnolia's days are numbered, or if they decide that, they could back plant something into the front there where that magnolia will leave a big gap in the canopy. If you look at the
Yeah,
overview.
no, that'd be nice too, that's
Like that.
Well, I don't think it's something they're planning on right away.
But that's what I'm saying, if they're putting a 3 inch or 2.5 inch or 3 inch caliper tree, that's gonna fit just fine under the magnolia for now. That magnolia
Yeah.
fills the entire front lawn with canopy.
Right, but if they're gonna redo a front porch, that needs to be more toward the sidewalk or toward the curb. And that's what we will want to see canopy within 15 feet of the
Well,
curb.
maybe that's like something to mention to them, like, so if they think they're gonna cut that magnolia down within the next 10 years.
I don't,
I
I,
don't think
I don't
they
think they
are,
want
because she asked me about, we would like to rework our front porch. Does it have any negative consequences for the magnolia? Yes, clearly, if you're gonna a foundation on the front porch, that you're gonna do lots of root damage. Even if you just do piers, you're gonna do some damage.
Yeah.
And you're building and investing a lot of money into a front porch, which is right up against,
Yeah,
so, and she says, well, we love the tree.
Mm.
So they kind of, it seemed to me, dropped the idea.
well, I mean, I'm
well,
okay with,
this is just conjecture about what might happen in the
Yeah,
future.
yeah, they can decide.
Yeah.
As long as I think, I'm okay with giving them permission, as long as it's on their property and
And they're gonna replace,
and they'll
Put in-
plant a new tree somewhere.
Somewhere,
I
Maybe,
told her that we would,
shouldn't we argue for trees near the street? I
Yes.
mean, that's.
yeah, I talked to her about that. That it should be a tree that's
Well,
planted
then
that
should
will
be
give
in
shade
the language,
onto the,
contingent upon something
yeah,
within
that the
15 or
tree that's
20 feet of
planted
the road.
will shade the sidewalk.
okay,
Cause that's, where we want the tree to go. And it'll be far enough away from those wires.
okay,
I'm gonna pass this down to you if you wanna, if you wanna write in the decision and then each of you can sign it.
Okay,
Right.
and I think they would be perfectly happy if any of us wanted to give them advice as far as where or, you know, what kind of tree. Well, if you're their friend, they'll,
Yeah.
you give them advice.
Yeah, I've already been working with them a little bit on their native plantings.
Yeah, I mean, they seem very cooperative and nice, so. Not that that's a reason to give them, to give them the okay, but you know, especially the thing with those big nuts all over the place, and if her son's kid is running around there.
I'm not sure that nut allergy works like that, you know, on contact. It's usually something that you
I'm
ingest.
not
If you
sure. I
ingest
don't know.
peanuts,
I'm not sure, but I know that those, those nuts are very potent and they'll stain you if you pick them up.
right?
I mean, you know, I wouldn't want it, let's put it that way. Especially not if there was gonna be a nut allergy kid around. And the tree has had a long life and a happy life.
Well, you know, if it's on neighbor's property, it may
Well-
piss somebody off. That tree, the walnut log there has value.
Oh, yeah, because
Way
the wood is
over
expensive.
what most other street trees have.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
it's not enough to justify, you know, somebody getting excited and removing the tree and taking the log somewhere to be milled.
I don't
but
mind
it does
calling
have-
Lenny, I know Lenny, I can call Lenny.
So
So we just-
another tree is planted, near the road? You know, within,
Within
With the
15 or 20
intention
feet
of
the-
shading the sidewalk.
Eventually we'll shade it, because they're not gonna.
Yeah,
shade it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, you talk about where
We
you
talked
plant
about
the tree, within 15 feet of the sidewalk. That then as it grows, it shades
Cool.
where you want it.
And there's a pretty big space there to make some, you know.
so I said, approved as long as the tree is on the owner's property and if another tree is planted within 20 feet of the road.
Sounds good. I will sign.
And that's all we have. Um,
What about this guy on Center Street?
we're waiting to hear
We're
back.
waiting, yeah, the attorney that sent the letter to
Yeah.
get more information.
I asked if, I don't know if I CC'd everyone on that one or not, but I asked if we could get the actual wording from the tree company. And if they were actually arborists or just the tree company.
Did you hear my response?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
very good.
Okay,
And we haven't heard back yet.
yeah,
So, but,
well,
you know,
it's just a line of bullshit, really.
Yeah,
oh,
you know,
I agree.
Not to say that the tree doesn't have problems or risk.
Yeah, but you know, I wanna hear from an arborist and not an attorney. Cause they know what they're talking about. My opinion is they're sending that from the attorney because they wanna scare us.
yep, exactly, and I didn't like that at all.
So,
It was like trying to, you know,
So, well,
threaten
I
us
mean,
with
we're just
something,
waiting.
like, what do we,
we're waiting.
no, I
for
didn't
that.
like that. And
Uh,
I was there again, and I looked, and there's a big excavator in there, were you there within the past 2 days? Any of you?
Well, they dug the foundation for a new house.
Well, they're pouring the concrete there. And it looks like it's going to be a very large building. And my guess is that it's going to be a multi-family deal, which will end up being student housing.
Based on what?
Based on what? Based on the size that they're practically putting this building to the edges of the property. It's gonna be huge, big, huge.
Other than that, we just have to approve minutes from May and June.
Yeah, I looked them over and they're good with me, so I don't know how
Make the motion to approve.
I make the motion to approve the minutes from May and June of 2024.
Second.
But this lawyer thing, it
All in
was,
favor?
I approve,
it was nasty, man. I thought it was nasty. So that didn't go over big with me. And I talked to the people that were working on the house there. And I said, is this a single residence house? You know, they said, oh, we don't know.
yeah, well, planning board, like, I guess if it's a single family, I don't know.
But the thing is, even if it's residential, if it's a multi-family thing, that still fits in with residential.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever the village code allows, I think, they're allowed to do it, so.
But, you know, whether it's big or not, those two trees are not going to be in the way of whatever they do there. If they could get a cement truck in that driveway without destroying that
You have
tree.
a site plan, is that the site of their driveway?
Well, I would think if that's where the cement truck went in, there's no other, I don't
Remember
know
how they
that.
cut those tree roots, though, that was all burned up, and they just cut right through.
Mhm.
I saw that, but the
And that was
trees,
not, it was not the sidewalk.
it was rude.
It was not it was not cutting the sidewalk that did that, like, the way that that letter was mischaracterizing what happened.
Yeah.
The building process was what removed a large portion of the roots. And I think they probably killed those trees. I know you disagree, but
Oh,
Well,
I
you
didn't
see, here's the thing,
damage
we
on
don't
the
know, and we won't know.
Yeah.
And mitigation, it could have taken place to protect those trees and really reduce the chances of them failing.
right. They don't have
Failing,
any-
dying.
Right.
They,
They have a
they,
vet-
they want them to die.
But I was gonna say, they don't have a vested interest in that. Their best interest.
I understand, and you know, that's why I sort of,
Seems especially likely that they're gonna kill those trees or they will die. Because they're,
Well, I didn't see, in other words, there aren't leaves or branches that are dying because of the cutting.
yeah,
I don't know how long
You know-
ago it was done,
you don't see them right away, you just don't.
but personally, you know,
We'll know a lot more in
I
the
think
spring.
they should try to save it. And the rest of the street doesn't deserve to have a great big open freaking space with no trees on it when
All right, well-
everybody's house has trees and it's really a nice little residential street. So,
I agree, if but that's your opinion, you
Yeah,
know, he has a different opinion. You know, he bought that plot and he pays taxes on that plot. And, you know, he's gotta live within the village code, of course.
yeah, well, probably him
But
leaving the
those
trees.
those
would be-
trees have
Oh,
have significant hazard in them. And when one of those limbs falls on a car or a passerby and injures them, who's going to foot the bill there? Who's going to,
Well, since he killed them, he should.
well,
Yeah.
those limbs have been, the dead limbs in the crown have been there for a while.
He should.
The formation of the sugar maple has been there forever. And as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, that structure becomes more vulnerable and failure becomes a little more likely. Not saying it is, we never know.
so then does it become like, how does it work for the village as far as liability goes? Like, does the village, because the village.
Well, you deny him that permit and then somebody gets hurt.
Right.
Oh, boy,
Right,
the attorneys will be all over.
Yeah.
Not only the
There's a
village,
close-up on it.
how about us?
right,
What are your qualifications here?
right.
Here's an injured party, you know, and maybe they can't ever go back to work or worse.
Right.
You
So-
can
so
say
you-
that about almost
We had
any
this-
tree.
when we had this discussion, I do remember you saying that those were salvageable.
Yes, I believe they are, but you have to mitigate the problems.
Right.
You-
Well, they're gonna do that.
They're probably not gonna do that because it's fairly costly.
So does that mean that we just revisit our decision and say you haven't done anything to mitigate what, you know, the damage that occurred? You haven't done anything to mitigate the tree. But then it becomes a thing where like. It encourages people to go, oh, we'll just get an attorney to send a letter and we'll get what we
I
need.
still.
Well, it's not based just on a letter with some phony crap bullshit in it. It's,
Well, why don't we wait and see what the response is from their
I'll
arborist?
send a follow-up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So I'd be interested to see if that arborist or tree company said, yeah, these trees need, right, and arborist, yeah. If these trees need this, this and this to survive, or they're unlikely to survive.
right, but they're set up mostly to do tree removal.
yeah,
Well,
And
again,
they can do other things if they're motivated, but there aren't too many tree people motivated to repair, mitigate, take action to prevent
Right.
these kind of things.
mhm.
yeah, it's not as much money and it's harder. Both of those things.
Both of those things.
Yeah, I think that's probably reasonable to sort of get that that detail. And maybe we revisit, because I'm inclined to kind of go, oh, are we gonna fight every one of these fights? I'd rather see nice healthy trees there, and we have to get there by saying the removal is approved with replacement as
Yes.
Yeah, like,
And Lee, we shouldn't have to struggle every time, we grant a permit. Why don't you have, or we have language with a prepared statement? Could be modified simply, or if they're, everyone's a little bit unique.
Yeah.
But most of these are permit granted contingent upon replacement. That's what we want. We
I
want to see
agree,
more
yeah, we
trees.
can have a standard,
Yeah, I think that there was.
So that it's, the intention is clear, the language is clear, and we don't have to, struggle, how should I write this? What should we say?
no, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't have any updates. I lost my,
Members, that was the other thing that I think we were talking about, is getting another couple shade tree members.
do you know anyone that's wants to?
I do not,
I don't either.
Has to be a village resident, correct?
yeah. Move to the village, become a shade tree commission member.
No, I've thought about maybe putting something in the paper, but I just haven't had a chance to
I
write
can have
something.
them announced at the village board meeting, but I mean,
Yeah.
it helps like word of mouth as well.
Yeah, it's usually someone gets that.
How many people come to the village board meeting?
But some people do listen to it, and
Well,
it's.
yeah.
it's on YouTube
I
and,
occasionally read
uh,
it.
Yeah.
and it's in the paper, and so it always helps to make, more people pay attention to their meetings than ours.
Mm.
So it's always helpful to make an announcement at their meeting instead of ours, because there's no newspaper here and we're not being, zoomed
Yeah.
or.
It said it out on the water bill, so it's kind of do that, like, we've sent shade tree announcements on there.
That's true.
We could have a nice like, hey, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not just our board, I think there are lots of.
Yeah.
Yeah, shortages, I think it's across.
So I think my tenure is getting short, and I think I'm gonna do with Christine and take a year or two next year.
All right, well, I'll make sure we gotta get someone on there.
I'm gonna push through. I mean, if we just can't, I'm not gonna leave the board, because it doesn't work when there's only two.
Yeah, we have to have three.
Right, we have to have three.
I did have a question though, because what's happening with such as the M&T Bank and these places that cut down trees, and supposedly they were replacing the trees.
Mm.
And I think this was one thing that irked Christine.
Yeah, I said.
What happens, who,
What,
that there's supposed to be trees planted?
right, but where's Christine's proposal to put some,
No,
Well, I think-
Christine's not a member anymore.
well, I understand, but if that's what bothered her, I don't recall her suggesting that we somehow strengthen our language or strengthen our,
Like, there should be
there should be, we all agree,
something that is going to pick up with the people that are not
yeah.
abiding by what.
We can ask for an
Get a lot of
update,
work tonight.
we can ask for, have they paid the fine? Did M&T pay the fine, or have they planted the trees?
Well, who do we ask?
I think it would be the code officer, right?
That's the only, yeah.
Because so they cut down the trees, and so under the code,
Right,
you have to pay a fine, I think $500 per tree. So either so our question is, can we ask the code officer, have they paid the fine, or have they been sent a bill for the fine?
For M&T and Salvation Army?
They replanted some trees there, not what we would like, but
Oh, okay.
they planted little tiny trees like this.
Well,
I don't think they'll survive, but
they might.
So who am I asking Alex about, like?
M&T, well, we're still wondering on M&T Bank.
Okay, so,
Well, there's still a big gap there where, Dino Toscani cut down those 2 trees that he never should have cut down.
yeah, where?
It's gonna always be.
By the,
these kind of things too, and some of it's just, we're volunteers.
Yeah.
On our own time, it's just, we don't have any enforcement capability whatsoever.
Well, the code's clear,
It is, But,
And
Yeah.
if we
I
put
suspect
language
Alex
in
is
there
pretty
that
busy.
refers to the code or refers
yeah.
to contingent upon.
Like what happened, that was other place where they cut all those trees on the corner, they, they're
Yeah.
just on South.
But I think that's our job is to follow up on it
Yeah.
and we know where the trees are, whereas, you know, what I saw in the town, you know, the town also has a law
Yeah,
for trees, but it's like within 50 feet and they have to talk to the code officer.
Oh,
But there are
really?
many
Many
exceptions.
exceptions, yes,
and
but-
people just do it
but they
on
just
a
do it.
Sunday.
right?
All
And
the
so.
time, I hear the
Yeah,
same
But,
sales
but
going
so
on
I think what
Yeah.
the village has is that it has us, that we see someone cutting down a tree and we take notes and we follow up and we make sure they file the permit and everything else, whereas that doesn't happen in a lot of other places. So
Yeah.
our job is to, like, we pay attention to what's happening in the village and we follow up.
Yeah.
You know, it's not our job to like send out the fines or anything, but we follow up.
But if
And-
we follow up and then there's nothing that, you know, in place that is going to actually have them do
Well,
what
I
they're
think,
supposed
you
to
know,
do,
that's-
we
that-
can't go, you know.
No, but that will happen. I think, you know,
That's-
problem is there's a million things going on and we just have to, we don't have to get angry if it doesn't happen right away. We just have to say like, hey, remember that? Can we follow up on it?
It's almost like you understand how the town and village politics work.
I don't know anything anymore. Actually, now I worry about trees. Now I'm telling people you gotta plant trees.
Good,
Plant a lot of trees.
So,
yeah,
and there's actually,
Anyway, I don't think it's our burden, but we're not powerless. There is a code
yes,
and there is a code enforcer. That's who it falls upon.
Right.
Yep.
If in fact, the permit is granted permit, or they take down a tree without a permit, the code is clear.
cause those trees have been down for at least a year, right? In front of the M&T bank.
Yeah.
They got rid of the roots, they planted, there's lawny area and dirt there, and there's plenty of space to plant trees there.
Yeah, it seems like a worthwhile space.
Yeah.
it's
Well,
a good.
While we're talking about this, I've got a list and we gave a permit to 168 Main Street to remove that Crimson King maple that was also viable. He said there was they had to take a pipe in,
Yes.
a sewer pipe in. Okay, fine, tree's gone, contingent upon replanting. Now, if you look at that property, it's not just that one stump there. There's 4 other stumps.
Yeah.
One of which is near the sidewalk, the others are toward the middle or backyard.
What is the address?
This is just up from the.
168 Main Street. And then I think 172 had some trees removed.
Okay,
I'm not sure they were street trees, they may have been set back beyond 20 feet, but again. And then, we have an old one at 211 Main Street, where I don't know if that was before anybody here on this committee, it was a big
Okay.
brouhaha, it was before me as a advisor to the committee. Big brouhaha with a local outfit, and the chair here wouldn't permit the homeowner to plant trees. Because he thought, his idea was that the stumps would regenerate, which they can do.
I know who you're referring to.
Yeah.
I think I do too.
Anyway, that really should be revisited. That
Okay.
211, it's a commercial space, there's 2 or 3 offices in it.
Yeah.
And there are wires on that side, so either shade trees have to be pulled back away from the sidewalk a bit,
I mean, that would be a-
or smaller trees.
Yeah.
But it was a great place on Main Street for 2 more trees.
Might be a spot that we include as a goodwill gesture, because our recommendation or request was not to plant trees. Maybe next time we have a tree to plant, we can say, hey, you know,
Yeah.
I know that this happened, so I didn't, that was before our
Yeah,
time.
well, they tried to do it, they tried to cut the trees without a permit.
Right,
Then it all blew up, and then, I guess, building owner, I don't know if it's the present owner or not,
yeah.
So,
sort of felt like, okay, well, we'll bring in the replacements.
so we should add that to our list of, and I keep meaning to do this, but actually, one of my thoughts is, could I get a copy of the permits that we've granted, like the last year or something like
Sure.
that? And I'll start putting a spreadsheet together
Okay,
of everything we approve and what the date and
Yeah,
the contingency. And then we'll be able to follow up on it. We'll have
We can all grab
a
few
single
of those.
list. And then we can also, I'll have that in the same spreadsheet as, where we're gonna plant trees. And we could just add to that and I can bring that to every meeting and we can just have a discussion and we can update it and follow up. I'm happy to do that. If people find it, and then you won't have to go back, we'll have that list. And then we'll be able to follow up and say, hey, last spring, we said they could plant a tree and they didn't, and it's the fall now, and should we follow back up with them and remind them, now's the time to plant? Yes, you cut your tree down in May and it was too late to plant, but you should be planting now between now and November.
yes.
And here's that list again, just.
And here's that
just
list,
place
yeah.
it.
And so I think that might also make it happen because people are busy,
Yeah.
too many things are going on and like they just forget and.
Well, the bank there, maybe they have something in mind. Maybe they were told to plant in the fall. We could give them a little leeway, but they do need to know that they should be obliged to plant something.
Yeah.
The two best seasons, of course, are end of March, April to mid-May. Maybe a little later, depends on how hot, or, very end of September, October, November. Perfect.
I think I'm happy to put that sheet together. It'll give us something to follow up on every week and that way, even if there's turnover, it's important that it's written down and there's a list and if we're not here, our replacements will know, hey, they granted permission back in 2023. And so we can do that. Thanks, that's a good idea.
Thank you.
We'll put that reminding us and then we'll try to keep it up to date as we move along. And then we'll send letters out to them or contact them, but that's all I have.
Sorry, I gotta.
Yeah, motion to.
I gotta turn water off, I got water running.
Oh.
Sprinklers in September, it's crazy.
Mm.
I think that's it.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
All in favor? All right,
Thanks, everybody.
thanks.
Next week.
No members is pretty important.
New members is gonna be key, because I am, like, I don't wanna force the board to not meet all summer.
Yeah.
It's kind of my other
Yeah.
obligation, but it's gonna recur every summer. I wanna try to be out by then, so at least I'm not.
Or maybe you could just not do this.
Yeah, if we had 5 members, it'd be no
Yeah,
big deal when
yeah.
anyone not show up.
That